Welcome back. As you can see, there's a discrepancy in my puzzle score. I tried to make a video earlier, but there were some technical problems. Like I forgot to turn my mic on, and it wasn't cropped correctly. So anyway, I won two and lost two, but ended up dropping 13 points. So I'm going to try again. And here I have a couple of checks, like this check, which I think just loses a rook. I have this check. Which I think can be blocked with the rook. If I don't keep checking, this rook is hanging, for one thing. Right now it looks like we're even on material on pieces, but my opponent has a few extra pawns. 3 extra pawns. So, not sure here. I know that if I sacrifice the rook to capture this pawn and they capture back, I'll have a follow-up check there. And the king's only move will be to go to the corner, and that's mate. But I missed a couple things. The two puzzles that I missed in my failed video were things exactly like that, where it looked obvious. So I'm going to make sure that when I capture this pawn, is there anything else white can do besides capture back? So, rook captures g3 check. White could move. If they did, I would capture this rook, and that would be checkmate. So there is the possibility of the king moving. There's no possibility of blocking. No piece can get here once I check. So I'm pretty sure that the only options are to move the king over, which we've already covered, that would be mate, or to recapture with the h pawn. H captures g3. Then, if I recaptured with my queen, as I stated, queen captures g3 check. There's no piece that can block. This queen can't snake around in there and block. The rook can't go diagonally and block. The king could not move to h2, g2, or f2. There would only be one legal move at that point. And that's mate. I'm pretty sure. And I've also made up my mind, if I can't spend much longer on these. I mean, I'm not playing them like a blitz game because I'm not trying to, right now, I'm not trying to get faster. Right now I'm trying to get better. Like in a rapid game, when I play a 10-minute game, I would rather lose on time while being ahead than win on time while being behind. I know that most people disagree, but because I want to get better at this, and not necessarily faster. But anyway, I'm going to do it. Okay. Pretty sure nothing can stop this or that. Well, okay. 5 points back. But that puzzle was only rated 1573. You can see it right above my head here, I think. The puzzle rating, which means it was below my rating. It does not have a theme listed. Now, you cannot see that because it's behind my video, but no themes listed, really. Huh. Well, and there's not the option. Oh, yeah, made in 3, right? That was made in 3? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Well, I'm going to click made in 3 then for the theme. Okay. Next. I've been trying to pay attention to the theme of the puzzle or the multiple themes because I saw a couple of posts in the forum on chess.com where people were complaining that the themes were all wrong. And I have seen some wrong myself. Okay. This pawn has moved forward, threatening my rook. I have a couple of checks. One that I'm pretty sure is check. No, not checkmate. I was going to say, I thought that was checkmate, but it's not, because the opponent can block with their rook. However, pretty sure it's mate, the move after that. Rook captures h2 check. The king cannot come here or here because my king protects both of those squares. The king could not move to here or here because my rook protects those two squares. So the only legal move after rook captures h2 check, the only legal move would be for the rook to block. And when that happens, I will put this rook here, and that will be checkmate. Pretty sure. Okay. All right. And this puzzle is 1642. So a little higher than the last one. And it says the theme is passed pawns. That's what it says. I'm going to thumbs down that theme because even though there are passed pawns on the board, well, there's one passed pawn on the board, two passed pawns on the board. That's not what this puzzle was about. This was a mate in two. And I'm going to click that and go. All right. This looks familiar, doesn't it? Like we've had this one before. Or something similar. Okay, I do have a check. Pretty sure that's my only check. Not sure exactly what I would do after that. So I don't know if check is the theme here. I do know that my opponent has a passed pawn, and that might be an important part of this puzzle. Not only is it two squares from promotion, but it would be protecting a rook check here. I mean, the king would be protecting that too, but this pawn is possibly an important part of this puzzle. I also have a passed pawn. Getting my rook out of the way of that someplace would leave me 4 squares from promotion. So it looks like I'm in worse shape. In a game, I would assume I am in worse shape because of how close this pawn is, because of how close this king is to my exposed king, and I would do this as a desperado move. But for the puzzle's sake, it wouldn't be a puzzle if the opponent hadn't just made some sort of mistake and I didn't have an out. One possible out would be capturing this pawn to create another passed pawn. I would have 2 passed pawns, and the king couldn't guard both of them if I could engineer some sort of rook sacrifice. In a blitz game with 20 seconds left, something like that might actually work. I don't know. But my opponent, if they didn't have this rook this close to my king, they also have mate in 2 right now. If they can get the rook over and then down, that's checkmate. Because my king and their king are in opposition right now. If they did move the rook over, I would have to move my king toward it so that I could get out, I think. Or move my rook over to block. But it's my turn. Sorry. Check. Where does the king go? If it goes toward my rook in an effort to capture it, that quits defending this rook. And I capture this rook, and they would capture mine. And then would I first move to blah? No, I would be over here. Right? Rook to e4 check. King goes toward it on d5. I capture their rook. That would only, at that point, it would only make sense to capture mine back. Then I would need to hurry back toward this passed pawn, like so, with my king. Either here or here. But I would say probably here, because that would prevent their king from coming back to guard it. And then even if the pawn moved forward, I could capture it. And I would have a passed pawn. If their king went after my passed pawn, Then after I took this one, well, I couldn't go there. I would move toward this passed pawn and protect this one on the way down. That seems really long and complicated, and it's probably just one move here. But what if the king just went there instead of going toward my rook? What if it just moved behind its own to continue protecting it? If so, I think I would check here and then win the rook when the king moved out of the way, and I would still have a rook. I think that's got to be my move, right? Okay, it went toward my rook, and it went that way instead of that way. Is my finger pointing the right direction for the screen? I don't know. But anyway, I thought it would go toward my passed pawn, but maybe not. I think I should take their rook right now. If I take their rook, and they took mine, then I would go here just as I had said. If I don't take their rook, they're definitely going to take mine. So if I take their rook, what other option would there be? Like if they advanced the pawn, that wouldn't make any sense. I would just move toward it, and then they would basically have to take my rook at that point. I think it has to be taking the rook. Okay. And now I think it has to be about stopping this pawn, as I said. And if they move to stop mine somehow, that's okay, because I'm going to go this way and get that pawn. The question is, does the puzzle want me to go forward or backward? I think it wants me to go forward, because if I come back to e8, their king can come here or here and continue protecting that pawn. Wait, but if it does that, I can go forward either way. That's so hard. You know what, though? In a game, I don't know that it would matter that much. Because... Pause. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I got interrupted by a phone call. I'm going to have to run up to this school and pick up one of my children. So this will be the last puzzle of this video. I'm going to move this king forward, and if that's wrong, I'll learn something from it. Okay, that was right. I believe now there's nothing I can do to keep this king from getting to in front of this pawn, so I'm going to take that one. Okay, and then I'm going to go for this pawn. That was a really long puzzle. I don't know how many moves that was. Theme, opposition, passed pawns. Okay, I got it. And that one was rated 1985. And I'm 2 points higher than when I ended my last puzzle video, if I remember correctly. Thank you for sticking with me. Sorry this one is shorter than most, but I got 3 puzzles in a row, and I have to go for family business. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.